things I've learned. I don't think the actual name of the presentation in the timetable is probably different. Can you hear my voice? Probably? Yep. I think the name was much longer. It was about Metroidvanias, but when I thought about it, this speech is going to be mostly improvised, and I thought about it and I realized that most of my points are not related entirely to Metroidvanias, so I thought I'd make this unofficial title simpler. So I've been working on a game for 2.5 years now. It's called Environmental Station Alpha. I've been showing it around in Nordic Game Jam and No More Sweden for a couple of years now. I think this might be the third or fourth time I'm talking about the same game. So I really want to get on with my life. I want to finish the game. It's almost finished, but there are some problems about publication and actually finishing those small little things and polishing it. But it's so close to being finished that I'm already starting to kind of look back to the development, and I've noticed a lot of things that I could have done better and things I've learned during this 2.5 year period. So I've gathered most of them here, or well, the most important ones here. Since life is life, most of these points are kind of negative. These are things I did wrong in my game, things I could have done better. I don't have actually any points that were like, I did this correctly. But no, that's life. So let's move on. Yeah, so first point, don't start with drawing the map. For my game, the inspiration came from, I love the maps in Super Metroid and Metroid games, like those little squares that make corridors and rooms. And in 2011, I wanted to make that kind of a map. I drew a really cool space station map, and I was like, oh, this is so amazing. And then after about a year, I thought, like, I made a map. Why don't I make a game around it? I want to make a game. So I started making the game with the map, which was in the end, it was a really bad decision because I had to build all the mechanics around the map instead of other way around, which would have been much saner. I don't think many people make this kind of mistakes, but I did. So I warn you, if you ever make a game with a map, if you want to make a large game, first think of the mechanics, first think of the story, and then make the map. Yeah, second point. Don't hardcode what you don't have to. So I think I'm using Multimedia Fusion, which is kind of a game creation tool similar to Game Maker. So for me, there's no actual coding. It's like putting blocks together, basically. So I think this might not be as big of a problem for those of you who actually do actual programming, who are the real guys and not sissies. But for me, I wanted to make a level editor for the game because I realized that for such a large game, I need to have some kind of tool for making rooms easily. I want to be able to design areas quickly. So I made a level editor. This is my first game with an actual level editor, and that was good. It made the developing the game much faster because I didn't have to in Multimedia Fusion. I would have had to copy all the code every single time I made a new room, and with a game with about 230 rooms, that would have been kind of a pain, especially if there was a bug. I would have to change the code in every single room. So I think this could be related to real programming as well. When you start making a game, it might be easy to think oh well, I'll do an editor for the levels, I'll do an editor for the enemies, I'll do a cutscene editor, but I leave those some things to be hard-coded, and that's always a bad decision. If you can make an editor for something, make it, because at some point you realize that I need to make this kind of large cutscene, I want to make this kind of huge something, and then you realize that you have to write it line by line. I heard I think it was you who mentioned this kind of example, like making a cutscene using only text because there's no cutscene editor. And in Environmental Station Alpha, I run into this problem. I'm currently working on the final cutscene where you have finished the game, you have beaten the final boss, you leave the space station in peace. There's a huge twist in the end, and it really sucks to have to write a line of code, walk 300 pixels to the right and then compile the game, play it, and see, oh, 300 pixels isn't enough. I have to move more, and then edit the code, and then check it again. It's a bad way of approaching things. Oh, that sucks. Okay, third point, make the player character vulnerable. I think this might be the most important point for everyone here. Like, when it comes to Metroidvanias and other games where you want to player to explore and be able to get some kind of power-ups. When I started making the game, I wanted to make the player feel very powerful in the end, so that they can move very freely. They have a lot of tools to approach different situations. So I made a mistake of making the player basically too powerful in the end. They have this dash, they can move really quickly around, they can instantly kill most enemies and so on. And that makes the game feel kind of boring in the end. I had to design the final boss with the player's power-ups in mind. So I had to design it really. I had to make the final boss really unfair, because the player has so many tools at that point that, like a normal boss, wouldn't have been hard enough. So I think if I were to make a Metroidvania again, I'd make the game have some kind of limitations, like maybe have a huge knockback, like the player actually flies to the other side of the room when he gets hit, so that there's something that the player has to look out for, so that they can't just breeze through everything. Like old games used to have that kind of limitations. La Mulana, I don't know how many of you have played it, but it had a system where you can't control your direction when you have jumped, which feels kind of awkward at first, but in the end it's for the best, because it makes the game always feel kind of hard. There's always a challenge, even if you get power-ups. Fourth point, design enemies by the room, not the other way around. This is related to the starting with the game map. I wanted to make enemies that can move very freely, that work in all kinds of situations, which means that a lot of the enemies are kind of similar to each other. They all move around, they shoot bullets, they have different patterns, but in a good Metroidvania you would have like enemies that are fixed into place, and they are hard because the the areas are designed so that the player finds them hard. Not like that I have this enemy that can fly anywhere and shoot bullets from everywhere, and I have to design the room so that that kind of enemy can be fought. But instead, that I design the room, and then I design an enemy that is actually hard for that kind of room design. Well, plan everything to some extent. So a problem I had was I had ideas for bosses and enemies and areas. I thought like, oh, I want to make this kind of huge mask that flies in the air and shoots the player with bullets and has this kind of patterns and so on. And then I didn't think it through. I thought like, when I get there, I'll probably already have ideas. Then I got there and I realized I don't have any ideas. So I had a lot of problems with like getting stuck in the development, because instead of just like having things planned out and then just implementing them, I got into places where I realized that, oh, I have nothing planned. I don't like this idea I had. I just had some kind of vague concept for the enemy. I have to actually design the enemy now, which was bad. I think I'm going to make it in time. So yeah, this sounds kind of self-explanatory and obvious, but it's very easy to start designing the game and saying like, oh well, when I get to the end, I know what to do, but you don't. Usually you don't. So don't be stupid like I was. I wouldn't have made the game in 2.5 years. I would have made it in 1 year. The trailer says will be finished in 2012, and it's 2014, and I haven't finished yet. I don't remember anything else. I think that was all. So I'm probably over time. Yeah, there we go. Thank you.